Today, we're looking at one of the most requested topics in the comments below. Today, we're looking at internet cat memes. Just kidding. Today, we're looking at parallax. This will be a multi-part series. This week, we're looking at just what parallax is and what are some more of the useful and effective examples of it. Next week, we'll talk about how we can build these things using real-life code examples. Now, the hard thing about making a video about parallax is really just getting clear on what parallax is, or in other words, what implementation of parallax do we want to focus on? Let me show you what I mean. The phenomena of parallax is a result of having a perspective in 3D space when movement is introduced to the observational experience. If I take my camera here and line up these toys I stole from my kids, I'm creating a perspective. You can see that the objects in the background appear smaller, and the one in the midground larger, and the one in the foreground the largest. At the moment, this is not parallax. This is perspective. When I pan the camera, you can see that the toys appear to move in space at different paces. The one in the background slower than the one closer to us. Now this is parallax. Objects moving in space at different paces relative to us, the viewer. The reason this effect is so popular is because it's very true to life. Binocular beings like us experience this all the time. We use it to understand the world around us, to tell if a car is coming close or away from us, to catch a frisbee, and to tell if our crush is leaning in for the kiss. Astronomers use these parallax principles to measure the distance between galaxies. It's a real thing, and we, as real things, connect with it because it is so. But here's the rub. These digital surfaces are not real. They're simulated experiences. We fake it, and there are a few ways to do that. There are a number of creative ways to use the principle of parallax to create an interesting feature on your web page. I have 20 examples that we're going to go through right now, and I've broken them into 8 sections. The first one I call fixed background scrolling body. The first example in this category of fixed background scrolling body is okstudios.de. And I mean, just as I described before, we have a few elements in the foreground, and they've even taken the liberty of blurring these elements here. So they look like they're definitely in the foreground. And as we scroll the page, this main hero image stays exactly still. It's just a fixed position, and the rest of the body will scroll by. The next section will cover that fixed position hero image, and then when it is done scrolling by, it will reveal another separate, different image, but fixed in the same way. And this time we're using the same type of technique, having elements in the foreground that are blurred to make it seem like a really deep image. And in this way of having foreground, midground, and background images, right? Background is this, what are they called? What are these things called? Toucans? No, that's a flamingo. Did you know that flamingos are not pink naturally? That's what they eat. Anyway, there's a flamingo in the background. In the midground would be this text block here and the logo, and the foreground would be this pencil. If they really wanted to accentuate this effect, they would have this pencil scrolling at a different pace, but that's just one nuance, and by not doing it, actually made it a lot easier for them in terms of development complexity. Another example here is Cut Your Studios. They have, again, these big background here, nice photography, and they're scrolling their website right on top of the background images. And these ones are actually using a carousel, so you can switch through the images here. I'm not sure what... Oh, this is just a theme. I thought this was actually like a photographer website. But okay, so do you see this screen that they put on top of the images? There's like a black screen on it. So every other every other column of pixels here has black overlay on top of it. Now the reason they do that is so that they can use lower resolution images and multiply the size of the images without it looking too pixelated or gross, because it's an effect that will allow you to use these larger images, because when you're blowing up images full screen, you kind of want to be cognizant of people who have lower resolution screens, right? And or even not just lower resolution screens, but also slower internet speeds. And this will give them hopefully a better browsing experience. They won't have to wait as long for the page to load, which could be a problem with these full screen backgrounds. So this screen here adds an artistic effect, but also there's a technical reason for doing that. So this is the section. These two examples are what I call fixed background, scrolling body. Okay, the next section is something I call slow elements. And this is when basically you have elements scrolling at different paces. In this case, we have this background. It looks fixed, but it is actually moving. And we have the midground is this photograph here of this gentleman with a golden medal, and the foreground would be this paragraph of text. Now, I wouldn't say this is a winning design, and it's funny because when I was looking at examples of Parallax, this page for Jason Kenny Obi came up a lot. And I don't even know why. It's not even... Anyway, I don't want to critique the design, but it's like extremely hard to read this right here, and like everything's like really chunky, and I don't know. I wasn't too... Anyway, let's see. What else do we have in the slow elements category? Unfold. I like how they're using not just like photos that land in a specific place. So if I go back to Jason Kenny, a lot of this doesn't look good until you're at a very specific spot. Maybe right here is what the designer, when they were designing in static, was thinking. I want this 3 on the left, above the paragraph to lay on top of the photograph here, and they're just like experimenting with ideas. Now that I think about it, the reason maybe it showed up on a lot of search results is because it's older. This looks like an older implementation. It's not as elegant. So what the next example is done here in unfold.no, they're using the same technological technique in creating these slow elements and things moving at different paces, but they're not at any one time making text illegible, but they are creating interest in making like this line, this simple line, interact with the text. It's not like that big, huge photo. And even this navigational section up here, when the time comes for it to be on a black background, it will adapt. It will turn into a black background, dark background navigation. Now it'll be red. Oh, I'm scrolling up. Oh, cool. I didn't realize I wasn't scrolled at the top. Clever. All right, next one. This one is still in the slow elements category, and it's the new Apple MacBook promotion page, right? Their new golden MacBook. This effect they're doing right here, where the MacBook just like is falling through the air and opening and like landing gracefully right here. This is an interesting effect. I won't like dive too much into it, but they're controlling a video by how much you scroll. So it's really interesting, really unique and complex. But see that shadow that lands and kind of moves into place? See how it's not touching the MacBook and then it'll move into place and get more opaque as the MacBook closes in on it? That shadow is a large image, even though what's happening right above it is a video. It's super cool. They did a really great job on that. But what I wanted to show about these slow elements are things like how the MacBook, when it's being revealed, it's parallaxing down. Like the image is moving down from its container, but it's very subtle. They use subtlety to enhance the experience of the viewer, but at the same time not bring so much attention to the effect that it takes away from the message. And this will be a really great experience for the user in the end, help them to understand what the message is and what action they should be taking on the website. It's so easy to get carried away with these effects to make really bad decisions. You see how this text is cinching up as it scrolls down, but also like it's not too much. Like this image of the laptop right here, I don't think is parallaxing at all. These next images I don't think are parallaxing at all. Let me just refresh the page and I'll show you another effect that I want to point out. It's another section in this kind of, all of these examples, called landing elements. The idea here is that your page is scrolling by normally, but as you hit a certain point, things will like fall into place or appear and land at a specific area that's already laid out for them. But when they do, they're scrolling at the normal speed of the page. The effect is that they've come from somewhere else when you're scrolling and landed exactly where they should be. Let me show you what I mean. When I scroll down, we got the MacBook effect, which again is just brilliant. But right here at the bottom, look under this paragraph. Did you see those numbers appear? It was really subtle. They just kind of scoot in from the right. I'm going to refresh and do that again. Pay attention to the bottom right here. When I'm scrolling, see those numbers? They all kind of parallax in at different speeds. The larger numbers come in faster than the labels, the little letters down at the bottom. It makes a really, really great effect. It brings attention to the statistics that they're trying to point out. They want to show that this MacBook is light, that it's thin, and that it has a great display. So I think they use it in a really great way. Let's look at the next website in this section of landing elements. This is called Streamline. They're selling icons. Let me refresh the page, and you'll see like it's compared to the subtlety of the Apple website that we just looked at. This is like a lot more aggressive. So let me refresh this and watch. Doing, doing. Everything's just like jumping in all at once. Like I think the whole page just assembled itself. The illustrations, the icons down below, the headlines, these buttons popped in. But as I scroll down, you're going to see more and more of this stuff just like bouncing in all over the place. Now, I personally think this is a little bit much. I think they're a little bit heavy-handed on it. But you have to admit, it does create a little bit of interest and keep the user scrolling down. If you think about like what the goal is as an interaction designer. So as a web designer, it's to organize the information and display it in a way that helps people to interact with it and create and perform actions that you want them to, right? But an interaction designer will have a few other goals. For example, create interest and punctuate different information points. For example, here in each section, you're like loading in, I think we're done. Okay, even these big boxes are animated in. Let me reload this page again. And you'll see like even though it is like really kind of corny, you're going to be like, oh, a headline just jumped in. Like, let me look at it and stuff. So, and it also might keep you scrolling to see like what else is going to jump in. And I don't know, I have mixed feelings about just see that? These phones jumped all the way across the screen. Amazing. Now this one is done using a library, actually. There's a library for all these jumpingness. I forgot what it's called. I think it's called wow.js. Is that right? .js. Yeah, this guy, wow.js. Everything you could possibly think of. Oh, goodness. Okay, so wow.js is the library that they're using here, by the way. All right, the next example, and the last example in the landing elements category is Microsoft has done a really good job here of not being as subtle as the Apple one, but of course not being as obtuse or aggressive as the line icons website. So as I scroll down, now this web page is from Microsoft, but it's more of like a PR kind of thing. They're talking about their actual teams, and they're kind of selling themselves as a personality. So watch what happens when I scroll down. I'm getting to like a more of an article situation here, and things at the bottom start like, it looks like a messy desk. So like this team that they're showing, or this kind of like department in their company, is called the Garage. This is like where they experiment on things. They have a bunch of engineers and designers working together in a really messy environment to innovate new creative things. So they want to make it feel really, really kind of haphazard and creative and just like mad science, right? And so when they scroll down, let me refresh that. When you scroll down, these things kind of just like, looks like a table that just got thrown, like some capacitors on and some motherboards on right here, and which is nice, I think, a nice effect. I liked also, did you see how these controls for the slideshow came in? Let me refresh that. They just kind of jump in after you get to a certain point, and that's nice as well, because remember, you can use this idea of landing elements to create interest to things that the user should interact with. So if these controls here were there the whole time, and I had to mouse over them for them to like respond, for example, give me this animation of, yes, please click me, it would be less noticeable, right? But if I scroll down to this carousel and I see the controls come in, I notice them because we're kind of like a T-Rex, right? We notice movement, and we're like, oh, okay, I guess I want to click on that. I just saw it move. I'm like, oh, hungry. Yeah. Okay, let's continue on. Next, we're going to look at a new category called multiple directions. And the first website in that category is called mainquarterly.com/Thoreau. And if I come down here to a few different of these articles, I'm going to click on this bottom one called Exploring Nature, Finding Ourselves. Okay, so we have like a full screen experience. The text is moving, and this is not what I'm talking about, but this is a great example of fixed background moving elements that we discussed earlier, right? But when we get down here, we have this bisected view, two full screen images, and one's a video, and watch this. My screen locks. My scroll kind of locks. I scroll up here, and then it feels like it stops scrolling, and then the elements start scrolling in different directions. And this is controlled by my mouse, right? It's like it's so wild and disorienting and weird, but also interesting. And then they land and can continue to scroll up together. So do I like it? I don't think I like it. I think it's weird and disorienting and doesn't tell me a good story. But also, like, it definitely keeps me scrolling. Like, I'm gonna find the end of this scroll because, like, I gotta know why I'm looking at this weird stuff that, like, is scrolling in different directions. It's a very interesting design in terms of unusualness. I don't like, it's a very unique design. I don't know that it's like a pleasing design. I'm not filled with delight when I'm scrolling, and I'm very agitated. But at the same time, it's an effective design because it keeps me scrolling. So their goal is to have Travis scroll all the way down their page, or at least to the bottom of this parallaxing section, and I did it. I did do it because I wanted to see it. And now we have more of the fixed background scrolling elements, which is the first section. This mainquarterly.com/Thoreau is full of this stuff. Look at that big background video. I like it. Very interesting website. All right, the next one that has multiple direction elements is really cool. This one is called Carousel.dropbox.com, and Carousel is a product that Dropbox has created, and it's really cool. So it's all about photos and using photos to like be organized and create moments and stuff, whatever. But so check out this big hero photograph right here. The rest of the website will scroll away, and this element is moving in a different direction than the rest of the website, and it's landing on a specific place in the example area here. So they've created like an iPhone layout, and then they have like a layout that you would find inside of their application. And as I scroll down, the layout inside of the application gets manipulated a few different times, but that one image is always there, right? It's getting moved and shrank and skewed and rotated, and there we go, keep on scrolling, and now it's in a different spot, and then it moves back, and then it gets scrolled away. So that is an example of multiple direction elements. Things just are flying around depending on where you're at in the scroll journey. There we are. Okay, so the next one is called mouse movements. These are things that are happening depending on where you're placing your mouse. This one is an example of Parallax, which is a jQuery plugin. So depending on where I have my mouse, the parallax is happening. But we have the same elements of quickly moving foregrounds, moderately moving midgrounds, and slowly moving backgrounds. See, that sun is barely moving, but this foreground of these trees and whatever is moving very quickly. They have tons of really interesting examples. The Beatles rock band used this, which is cool. I wonder if it's still up. Oh. Okay, either my browser is just really slow right now or this website is like jank because it was back in '09. Yeah. Oh, there's like the style sheet missing. This is a really cool website when it came out. I remember that when that game came out. Anyway, the next one of this, what is it called? Mouse movements, Parallax, is this one. So they created a cool star field effect, and wherever I move my mouse, the star field is moving. So they have stars in the foreground. They're brighter. They have some like astronomy, not astronomy, astrological signs and whatnot in the background. But the content, I want to bring your attention to this fact: the content is not parallaxing. This menu is the same everywhere I go. When I click into one of these elements, the content is just giving me a regular scroll. So the next one is actually my own website. I did a root beer tasting article, but I wanted the navigation here to not be a drop down or a side scroll, so I put it all up in the top and then I parallaxed it. So no matter where you are in the top, you can get to one of these root beers, but it's gonna, you bring more of that navigation into the top. It's very experimental. I wouldn't do this with like a production level website because it's not really that intuitive, but it is an interesting way of using the parallax via the mouse movement effect to show you that there are different navigational items to explore. Cool. All right. The next section, I just have one example, and this is just called thumbnailing. I just called it thumbnailing. But the idea is that it's similar to the mouse movement, but it's basically when you put your mouse over a region, it's not following your mouse like those other parallax mouse movement examples were. It's more like it activates this section, this thumbnail in these cases, and we're going to have some parallax movement happening. So in these Lily examples, the background is sliding to the right. Sadie, nothing is happening in terms of the background. Let me find another one. Okay, these Layla examples, the background is sliding down. They're just parallaxing, moving a little bit differently than you normally would expect, creating a little bit more of a three-dimensional view. There's another one here, Ruby. Ruby is going to give you a little bit more of that depth of field because they're actually zooming out when you hover over this background. Right? Now there's this website, typanis.codrops.com or codrops.typanis.com. It's got tons of these really great examples. I'm really inspired by these people all the time, but this is an article called, I think, Subtle Hover Effects. And they use parallax in a really good and charming way. Oh, charming. A really good way, and you should definitely check it out. But that's the only example I have for the thumbnailing events because they have so many examples on this page, right? Like, see how they're zooming out right here. And they teach you how to do all of these examples too. Really cool. The next section I have is I call Follow the Rabbit, okay? So in the Follow the Rabbit parallax event, or in the Follow the Rabbit parallax category, you're going to have something on the screen that is more or less stable, and it's going to be fixed. And as you scroll, things are going to be happening around and to it to create a narrative and hopefully portray the message of the web design. So in this case, I have this Royal British Legion, and they're talking about poppy seeds, which is a tradition in England to commemorate the fallen soldiers of various wars, and it comes from a really beautiful poem called "In Flanders Field." Can't remember too much about it. It's a beautiful thing, and it's a great cause. But we have here this poppy seed design in the center, and as you scroll down, the poppy seed shows up in different ways in kind of the same area, right? So that it'll kind of fade out and disappear here when you're initially scrolling, but as you get to the next section, the poppy seed shows up again in the same vertical area, although it is kind of scrolling up and down, but it's showing up in different contexts. So right here, you're teaching the kids about the poppy seeds and about the veterans and about the sacrifices that they have made. And it's a really cool interactive way, like the poppy seed is now being illustrated on the chalkboard for kids to understand. Now, as we continue to scroll down, we see that the poppy seed shows up in a veteran's house, or maybe in this case, it's the mother of a veteran. Here's another of multi-direction scrolling. They have this mouse in a sewer pipeline as you scroll down. It's cute. Triceratops. And again, the poppy seed shows up at the bottom, kind of representing a beach day for the veteran family, which is adorable. These kids jump up from nowhere. And the castle kind of builds itself right here. It's beautiful. I really enjoy it. Okay, let's continue on. We're still looking at Follow the Rabbit. This one is called Lost World Affairs / Atlantis. And it was designed by I forget the gentleman's name, but he's also a very notable author, and Frank Cumero, and it was sponsored by Microsoft, I think. It was a few years ago. But anyway, the idea here, the concept here is that this guy in this kind of elevator, it's like submarine elevator, is going to keep going down the tube and eventually find this lost world of Atlantis. And it's really fun, and it scrolls for like a freaking forever. And the elevator tube is basically fixed the whole time. And things are moving around it, and you're getting this story of, how far does it go, and here's some factoids, and this little counter here is taking note of how far you've scrolled, or in other words, how far this elevator, this submarine elevator has traveled. And there's kind of like things that are happening around it. It's good. There's a Loch Ness monster, giant squid, and eventually, where are we? Atlantis. We land. See? That's fun. This is an early example of this technique as well. It's pretty innovative at the time it was designed and created. Here's another innovative one. This is for a security, like an internet security website. And this guy named Ben is kind of like a Leon the Professional character, and he's French, and he's walking down this street. It's a really seedy, kind of like noir kind of thing. Like here's somebody in this situation, somebody got mugged, and Ben's like walking by, and he's like, yeah, this stuff happens, but not to you because I got your back. I'm the bodyguard. It's pretty funny. So he's walking through like a Vice kind of. Oh, that's weird. It's a really dark website actually. But this train is controlled by Parallax. Anyway, so a lot of things happen to Ben as he walks through these seedy city streets and what have you. I have one more for Follow the Rabbit, and this when it first was introduced was just like a big deal. Everybody was like, "Oh, I can't believe this!" So here we are. This is the Pencil website. It's a mouse, or no, it's not a mouse. It's a stylus that was designed by 53, who are the makers of an iPad app, a drawing app. So this is a high, what is it called? Like a high-end iPad stylus is what this thing is. Anyway, so they want to sell you on what Pencil is and what it can do for you, and they're kind of showing you examples of how it works and what it'll enable you to do, unlock your creativity and all that junk. But in the bottom, they want to show you what went into making it. Why is this pencil so expensive, and why do we consider it a high-end piece of technology? Now at the bottom here, we're going to see this pencil show up. It'll scroll into view, and then suddenly the pencil itself will lock, right? And things will start coming out of it, and it's going to have like an exploded view of the technology inside. So first of all, the eraser tip, now the Bluetooth technology bit, here's the body, now we're going to talk about the nib. We have the power source, the sensors, the tip, and it's all exploded, but it's using parallax for things moving in a different pace to allow this explosion to happen. And me, as the viewer, I'm like witnessing, I'm controlling the explosion. So it's very explorative. I'm gonna like scroll down and be like, oh, the eraser tip, and I'll pause and read it. Oh, Bluetooth smart, pause and read, and so forth. And in this way, they're going to sell me on each little bit of their technology, which is really, really clever and a great experience for me too. It's interesting. It's not too heavy-handed. Things aren't flying around and being obnoxious, but it's like very interactive. And what I like most about it is that I, as the viewer, am controlling the parallax. It's 100% tied to my mouse movement. If it's going too fast, I'll stop scrolling. I'll just slow down and let myself pace myself. So a lot of these parallax things, they kind of multiply mouse scroll movements or are triggered by them and are on their own animation pace. So this is a really, really elegant example of letting the user control the pace of information, but also giving them that kind of more interactive, more visual, visceral, pleasurable kind of scrolling experience. So that is the last of the examples of what I call follow the rabbit. And the last two examples are what I call zooming elements. This one is on my own website. Sorry if I'm doing my own examples. It's weird, but like I was just thinking of what I know of things that do this stuff, and of course I know my own, so I'm just showing you. Anyway, so this is called zooming elements. This is an article I did on my website just talking about my own personal workflow tools, the different applications or websites or services or like even like podcasts and blogs that I visit. So when you scroll down, this little bunny's image here, it will just kind of like start zooming and expanding. It's tied to the scroll, and it'll just keep going infinitely large. And I call that, so it's not like moving at a different pace, like the element itself is not moving, but the content of this box, the image that's in this container is moving at a different pace and a different direction. It's actually coming towards you and out. It's the zoom is anchored to center bottom, so his feet are not gonna change as much as his ears are because they're further away from the center and the bottom. See, zooming out. And the last example I have of the same thing is a New York Times article where they've done the same technique, but they've broken it into different layered elements to make a little bit more immersive experience. So when I scroll, we have this like cage fighting background. When I scroll, the different background elements will break off and start zooming away, and it makes me feel like I'm looking at this cage fight and I'm walking into the crowd, and I'm walking between the different spectators, and I'm getting closer to this cage fight. See how they kind of like come towards me and go past me, and they blur a little bit. Do they blur? No, I guess they don't. Maybe, I don't know. But I really like that. I really like that effect, and they do it a few times as you scroll down. Let's find another one. They have this like a comic book motif. So here we have this gentleman. You can see him through the window, and as you scroll, the part of the illustration that contains the character is zooming as I scroll in, but not the frame of the window. So again, it makes me feel like remember how I defined parallax as being a situation that is observable in 3D space based on the perspective of the viewer. This really feels like I am the viewer am walking towards the picture, right? Like I'm walking towards this guy, I'm creeping up and looking through a window at him, and he's noticing me as he turns around. It's a really, really interesting experience, and I feel like I'm getting closer to these people, understanding their grief or whatever they're mourning. As the scroll happens. It's so interesting that I can control the story. I feel like I'm in control as a viewer. it's really impactful. So great job, New York Times. Mine was the version that the example that I gave you here is just like a little weird, stupid trick, but they're using it to tell a story, and they're doing such a great job. Like it's like emotionally impactful. It's like right here, I feel like I want to go and comfort these people. Right here, I feel like I'm peeking in on this guy. I'm learning about his secret or his like, like something, like I'm discovering something, like I'm a detective or a peeping Tom or something weird. And then at the top, I feel like I'm in this really seedy bar, like a cage fight match, and I'm walking between the fans and stuff, and I just have this like really like immersive experience. Anyway, so this is the last example. These are 20 examples of different kinds of uses of parallax. You can find a list of all of these examples in the video description below. And I'm going to take one or two of these examples for the video next week. I'm going to build them out in front of you and help you understand how they achieved these effects, and so that you can do this kind of stuff with your own work. But at the same time, if you really liked one of these effects more than anything else, and you really want it, and you comment fast, because I'm working on this as you are viewing this, leave a comment. And if it's like an overwhelming request for any particular one of these examples, I'll try to make a video about it, okay? But I have in mind one or two already that I want to make for next week. I just got to make them. I haven't done it yet. But if you guys can intercept my work and say, we actually want you to work on this one, Travis, I'll try to accommodate, okay? So leave your comments in the doodle below, and also be sure to check out all these links. And then here is the outro. Wasn't that fun? Thank you so much for watching. In the next video, we're going to look at how we can build a few of these experiences. In the meantime, the question of the week is, what is the most impressive Parallax website you've ever seen? I can't wait to see what you all dig up. But until then, keep on hacking. Hello, welcome to the end of the show. I just want to take a second to thank these people here. These are the names of the people who support this show via Patreon. Not only do the people who are in the Patreon community bring you dev tips every week for free, but they also enjoy other perks like dev tips chat, extra videos, and even a private Patreon podcast. To learn more about what we're doing over there, there's a link in the description below, or just visit patreon.com/devtips. I would love to have you join us, but if you're still unsure, here's something somebody said recently about their membership in the community. Thanks again.